focused very much on my external beauty.
But doing it yourself, it takes time.
I mean, ultimately I lost my chest. Anxiety is not always that nurturing, right?
And I thank you and all the other people on the internet and on social media.
So we're up against a lot.
Christine, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Your journey is nothing short but extraordinary. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey, your experiences, and what made you get to here doing what you do, spread awareness about trauma, breast cancer, and all of those things?
Well, my journey started when I first started modeling as a child. I started modeling when I was 11 years old, and ultimately that became my focus in life. I went to college and had a college degree, but after college, my family would say to me, "What do you want to do?" "I'm going to go back to modeling." It was familiar. It was something that I had learned to focus on. I focused very much on my external beauty and thought that that was my landscape, that was my identity, that was my stronghold. And so I missed along the way in those early young adult years the introspective moments that we're supposed to go through to realize that anything external can be taken away. And so why focus on things that can be stripped from you? Ultimately, I stopped modeling when I was 35, and that's when I had some health issues. I had a colon resection, was my first brush with death. That surgery almost ended in taking my life. The doctor had nicked a vein in one of my bones and I almost bled to death on the table. That should have been a stop, pause, take inventory of what you're paying attention to and shift to a different focus. Well, of course, I went back to modeling and stayed in that externally focused world, and about 3 years later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and really struggled through the identity issues, because at that point, when you're 40, 41 years old and your focus has been completely on things that are not, that can be washed away, let's say, right, with age or illness, or it doesn't really matter. There's a lot of reasons why. It took me quite a while to figure out who really was I. And through 28 rounds of chemotherapy and through losing my beauty, I really decided that if I was going to survive this disease, I was going to live a different way. I was going to have my foundational built on, not on sand and not on the roller coaster of life of caring about external accolades or external beauty. I was going to build it on faith. I was going to build it on serving others and not self-serving. I was going to build it on the tenets of focusing on the eternal, not the right now. And so if I could write a book, which I did, about my journey, maybe that would give people hope. And if I could start to speak about my journey, maybe that could give people hope. And so I ultimately became a hope facilitator through all of my trauma.
Well, that's very inspiring and fascinating. Let me just go back to correct you. I don't think you ever lost your beauty. You're beautiful.
Well, you should have seen me with...
I've seen your old interviews as well, and you always look great. But I'm sure going through chemo and surgeries and all of that was a terrifying experience. I can't even imagine what it can be like. And I think that as women, no matter, even if, let's say, we don't go through trauma or physical illness, even approaching late 30s and 40s can be quite terrifying and worrisome, thinking about, oh my God, am I going to need Botox? Am I going to need this and that? And what am I going to look like in 5 years? So that by itself, I know there's, and again, you think about comparison, right? There's women who are perfectly healthy who also worry about aging. So imagine going through a disease and then getting over that and surgeries and chemo while approaching that age, because you're vulnerable as a woman at that time anyway.
Right.
And again, in this day and age, it's so important to come back and talk about what is superficial in life and what is not. And what you've done is extraordinary, but I think it's a way of really spreading awareness and hope about there are things that can be stripped away from you and there are things that can't. And that's really important.
So my mission is, ultimately I lost my chest. Not just from mastectomies, I had implants, but then I had breast implant illness disease. And I woke up with a concave chest. And I realized then that the pressure that women go through it's society induced, but it's all self-induced.
Yes.
And if I could take that from myself and not worry about those things anymore and walk in Miami Swim Week as a model and walk in New York Fashion Week as a model and partner with huge brands like Victoria's Secret as a breastless model and say my beauty was not dissected because I lost my chest. My beauty is inside. It's my inside job. And I think so often women, we're tethered to our self-esteem. Everybody is. We're tethered to how we feel about ourselves. We're tethered to what we say about ourselves. And if I say to myself, I'm not whole because I lost my breast, that's a lie. It's not a truth. But if I say that to myself, then I'll believe that. And then I'll feel less than. I'm not less than what I was with breasts. I am whole either way because I'm not tethered to society. I'm not tethered to what society tells us that we are. I'm tethered to my stronghold is faith and what is eternal and not is what of this world.
Do you think in this day and age, now more than ever, we're more superficial than we've ever been?
I think we are, and I attribute a lot of that to social media.
Yes.
And and don't get me wrong, it's not that I never use a filter.
Yeah.
Because I do, and I want to be completely authentic with my story, but I'm always honest. I don't put the highlight reels out there. Like I have a doctor's appointment this afternoon. I've had a lot of collateral damage after so much chemotherapy. And so I'll say, okay, my socials, I did an interview with podcasts trying to show hope. And then I'll say, now I've got a doctor's appointment and here I am in a hospital gown, right? But if it's the people that put all the highlight reels out there, where people are comparing themselves to people's best moments and people's, not just highlights, but they're
just the good moments.
Filtered.
Yes.
And I think that's not fair because that's not true.
Yeah. I was, every woman is a bit self-conscious about some attributes of hers, right? And I was talking to my little cousin, and she told me, "What? You're worried about stretch marks? She sent me multiple models, and I think it was actresses. She sent me a link that showed all of these people with that unfiltered pictures with their stretch marks out, and I was like, that's great. This is good to know. I am normal, because you don't see that." And that to me was just a breath of fresh air. I was like, this is amazing. Okay, there's nothing to worry about. This is normal and healthy, and it's okay.
Well, I think that's why it's important to be listen to podcasts because people are vulnerable. People are out there telling truths versus just showing
the good.
And even yesterday I was going through some old modeling pictures because I just recently moved and I was going through all these thousands and thousands of pictures of when I was a guest model at the age of 22, and we didn't have filters back then. It was the pictures that I were looking at were the negatives, and so those weren't edited. And I remember thinking back then, because I'm 54 now, I was fat. I'm not.
Back then you used to think that.
It was crazy what I used to tell my modeling agency. I used to work for Elite Worldwide, and I used to come in and they would weigh me, which they don't do anymore in modeling agencies. And it's the self-esteem, the lack of confidence, the lack of courage that I had versus now. I have scars all over my body. I don't have a chest. I have tremendous courage that I try to lend to other people who don't have it and say, you can go through trauma after trauma after trauma, and it's how you respond to the trauma. It's what you do with the trauma. So I didn't have to go back to modeling after my breast cancer diagnosis. I didn't have to go after my chest was concave, but I did it for a reason. Because there's too many people out there that feel less than because they've got a scar, or they have a disease, they have an illness. You can't control those things. And why does that diminish who you are? It doesn't. So I'm kind of preaching from the rooftops, shouting really loudly. Your job is to nurture your self-esteem. Your job is to figure out what you're telling yourself. And if you're telling yourself that you're not worthy, man, you're going to feel unworthy. And you're going to make decisions based on that. And those decisions are not going to be great.
Right.
So.
And there's a lot of things that can happen without, there's so many idiopathic diseases in women, autoimmune disease or cancer. It's so unpredictable. So you can have the best diet, you can eat well, exercise, be healthy, but you're not immune to any of these catastrophic diseases, traumatic events happening to you. So it's so important to be the main thing to focus on more than the external appearances or anything. It's just your self-esteem and confidence, and if you have that right, at least you'll have you'll have more tools in your toolbox to deal with it. I'm not saying it's going to be all hunky-dory even if you have a traumatic event, because it's not. It's going to be tough, but at least you'll be a little bit ahead of the game because you have that pre-built resilience.
Courage, yes,
100%. And I feel that sometimes I look at everybody on social media, not everybody. There's a lot of people who are very genuine and, open. I myself, I've never been that good at social media, so I'm not good at posting good or bad things. I mostly post the good because I feel that if I post something bad, I don't want to, make someone else feel bad because I'm sad today. Like, it's just, and that might be a little bit of self-consciousness too, that it's just I'm not used to being completely out there and honest. Maybe one day I'll get there, I'm hoping. But when I see people on social media who look picture perfect, I'm like, that's gotta be something. Like, it's not that you hope that something's wrong, but you always feel that nobody's life is perfect.
It's unattainable.
Right? It's on it exactly.
Yeah.
No marriage, no relationship, no job, no career.
Nothing.
Nothing is.
Perfectionism doesn't exist.
It does not. And a perfect society doesn't exist. A perfect country doesn't exist. A perfect human being does not exist. So it just makes me feel like you can't compare yourself to other people. It's just, you're fighting a losing battle if you do.
Comparison is out. Collaboration is in.
Yeah.
And one thing that I noticed when you were chatting was we as a society, especially women, have to give ourselves the grace that we so freely give other people.
Mm-hmm.
So we give people grace, like if they're late or if they say a comment that maybe is not as positive as we would like. But when we do something wrong, we are so
hard on ourselves.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
And so if you wake up each day and say, I'm going to give myself the grace that I give other people, you're going to live a more peaceful life. And you're not going to necessarily cut yourself down. You're not going to necessarily say negative statements about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll give you a really dumb example. But when I play tennis, I sometimes will say, that was a terrible shot. I can't believe you kind of push myself down. And I am now taking every thought captive. And if it's negative and it's against myself or anybody else, I stop it. Because that negativity, it can become consuming, regardless if it's about a tennis shot or if it's about physical appearance, anything, it doesn't matter. It's a negative thought that's entering into your body, into your mind, and so I stop them all. And when you stop them all, there becomes a peace about you, a light about you, because there's not this negativity brewing around. There's not this competition. There's not this jealousy that doesn't serve anybody.
It doesn't. And they say thought become feelings.
Yes.
Right? So whatever you think, whatever thought you have, that's how you feel for whatever amount of time after that. That happens to me a lot. And I don't realize why I'm feeling a certain way, and then I'm like, oh, I had those thoughts for no reason. Nothing really happened. Somehow my mind wavered to that point. And then now I feel a certain way. And it's just like, what a waste of time, A
waste of energy, a waste of time. And I think when your listeners hear this, they'll be like, yeah, but it's normal to have those thoughts. And I agree. But if you start to practice to take those thoughts captive, if you start to practice positivity and gratitude, even though it's so cliche, if you're just grateful, you're going to wake up happier. Well, it takes a long time. It took me through many illnesses to finally figure that out. Hopefully your listeners won't have to go through that much of pruning, but don't beat yourself up if you're not saying to yourself, I'm worthy, and believing it right away. It takes time, and it's an effort, and it's retraining your brain to say, I'm worthy, I'm loved, then, well, I'm single, and who's going to want me, right? Those are two very different thoughts and patterns in your brain.
Right.
So if you believe something about yourself, you will become that. So let's try to train our brain to believe something really good about ourselves, because we are good.
Wow, that's great. Good advice there. I have to definitely exercise that brain muscle where I think more positive. And I know these things, right? I'll talk about it all the time. Yeah, you should do this and that. It's easier said than done for me. I really need to practice, because I can say these things that we were talking about to my friends and to my cousins and my sisters and my siblings, whatever.
Yes.
But doing it yourself, it takes time. It's not a one-day thing, it takes weeks and a lot of practice to really get to a point that, okay, I noticed that thought, I'm going to catch it there, and I'm going to change it, or I'm not going to think that way. Like, that takes practice.
Well, and I'm not here to discount how great society can be, but society is not always that nurturing, right?
Oh,
Society wants us to buy. Society wants us to look a certain way. Society is canceling people, right? So we're up against a lot. But if you're up against yourself, that's harder. So don't be up against yourself and society.
Yes, there's enough
before yourself.
Yes, and there's enough external forces to fight against. Yes.
Yeah. So we got to be cheerleaders for ourselves.
That's perfect. Through the journey of breast cancer and healing and all of that, what was the most emotionally challenging thing that you faced? Like, what were the emotional challenges? Because at that time, who you are now and who you were then, very different people, right?
Very.
How did you navigate that? And, like, what, for example, describe a day or something that you were down in the ditches and you picked yourself up and stood up again.
Yeah. Okay, a couple examples. My focus was very much on materialism and external accolades. Does this person like me? Can I get this job, this modeling job, this client, etc.? Well, of course that came to a complete halt when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had emotional paralysis. My biggest fear was not being able to raise my sons. I have two sons, they were 11 and 13 at the time, and the biggest moment for me was, is somebody else going to have the privilege of raising my children? And that was heartbreaking to me. And I wanted to fight for them to be their mother. But that's easier said than done, right? Because you're faced with not only 28 rounds of chemo, where 20% of people who go through chemo die from chemotherapy, but I also had a doctor tell me this is your percentile chance of survival. Now, if I had meditated on that number, I would have been less hopeful. I think it's really important for doctors not to say that number unless somebody asks for it, because that number is meaningless to me. I have a faith in God that is bigger than any number that somebody puts on me. So in the darkest moments, my biggest hurdles were, please God, let me raise my kids. That was one. But there were other moments where I was alone and violently ill. So I was emotionally paralyzed because I thought, well, how am I going to get through this? And it feels, when you have a disease, you feel very alone. It's not like all your contemporaries around you are going through the same thing. Nobody around me was going through it. And so that kind of loneliness and that feeling of orphaned can really start to break down your self-esteem. And you feel, you can go to that place of feeling unloved, unworthy. Now I have this scarlet letter of cancer. I went down that whole rabbit hole.
Right. And then you victimize yourself more
totally.
when you see this is just happening to you, and it's like, why me?
Yes. And I was that self-proclaimed athlete. I was that girl that ate healthy. I did work out every day. So that was, I was meditating on, why is this happening to me? How could this happen to me? And what happened was my friends started to show up for me every day. A community of people got behind me. They started to cheer for me. They said, we will never forsake you. It is an opportunity and is a gift to serve you during this time of illness. And so they started to give up their time and the resources from their families to my own to take care of my people, my family, me. And I thought, wow, if my friends in my community are giving up their time and their resources and their schedules to care for me, why am I not protecting myself as much as they are? Why would they do that? But why can't I do that? Why am I not showing courage? Why are they showing all this courage? And so it started, month after month, I started to shift. And then they would teach me, they would say, when you're done with this process, when you are healed and when you are not ill anymore, and you're out of this stage of this other season of illness, it'll be your responsibility to do what we're doing for you. You will start to give courage to other people. And I took that very seriously. So I think a couple things happened. One, we need a community of people to stand up for us when we have a faltering voice, a small voice. And if we see that, then we regain that courage. So sometimes you need to borrow courage from other people, which I did from my friends. The other thing that happened was I started to really pour into my faith. And I started to I no longer listen to secular music, I listened to faith-based music. And so what was going in my head was things that were living. The living word, the living, like plants. My friends took out anything that had skull and crossbones in my house, took it out. They said anything that represents death is coming out of this house. And they filled it with plants. They filled it with life. And anytime I would say to them, I'm afraid I'm going to die, they'd say, I cancel that thought. We are going to replace it with this. And so it was like all this life-giving moments and life-giving friends, and also my thoughts started to change. Again, it takes a long time, especially for me, because I had 15 months of chemotherapy. That was a long pause. And I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time listening to faith-based music, listening to my friends, and that's how I shifted.
So faith was a very important part.
Faith was the most important part for me, and the community of people that showed up for me. People showing up for you is critical in this life.
Were you spiritual or religious even before that happened, or did the trauma make you more spiritual?
So my friends for years would say to me, do you want to go to this Bible study with me? And I'd be like, no, I have a yoga class. I can't go do that. And so had I gone to the Bible studies and not so many yoga classes, maybe I would have been emotionally not so paralyzed in the beginning of the process. But I knew who God was. I didn't have such a personal relationship with him as I do now. I really kicked it into high gear. Yes. Fortunately. Yes. I feel very lucky.
Yeah. I can relate to that a little bit because I was never religious. My family is super religious, and of course I grew up around religion. We're Hindus. Yeah. Never religious, right? Never really believe so much or practice so much. I still don't practice as much, but I believe. And whenever my parents would say, oh, this is your religion, you should do this, I would say, medicine is my religion. I don't have any other religion. This is it. Being a scientist and being, so engrossed and arrogant about science is it, and there's nothing else that exists. But whenever I found myself in a tough time in life, whether that might be breaking a foot or living by myself or a tough relationship or breakups, I have always gone back to faith.
Not science.
Yeah, not science, no.
Yeah, interesting.
No, because that's what kept me going through that time and giving me hope that I'm protected, I'm okay, there's someone looking after me, everything happens for a reason. Yeah. Just keep going.
I love it.
Right? And that's what, and till date, I feel bad because I always say I don't practice that much, but I know that there's someone looking after me. Beautiful. And that's my faith. And everyone has different kinds of relationships with God or the universe, right? Of
course. And then, no judgment. I'm just explaining. I just tell my story in what I clung to. And, you don't always need a structure. That's man-made. The personal relationship with what you believe in is all that really matters.
Yeah. And faith makes you stronger, I think.
Yes, it's almost like it's courage.
Right. And I don't want to, because so my husband's not religious at all, but he believes in doing good, and he's a good person. He always says people talk about religion so much, and people fight over religion because of religion, but the most important thing is being good. And how can you like talk about religion and do bad things? That doesn't make sense. I said, yes, I understand that, but still having faith is only going to make you stronger. You don't have to do anything differently. It's just, So everyone, and I respect his belief too.
Of course.
But yeah, everyone has a different kind of relationship.
Yeah. Well, and gratefully, we can respect each other.
Yes.
If the whole world did
Exactly.
that, wouldn't it be a peaceful place?
Exactly. 100%. Okay, so coming back to your journey and your life after surviving breast cancer. Now, this was a long period of time. How long was it?
Well, the interesting thing about any disease, it can have collateral effects.
Mm-hmm.
And part of, I do speak a lot on patient care because many patients feel like people show up in the beginning. They show up for the initial chemo or the mastectomies, the initial surgeries. But down the road, you have complications. You can have complications. And so a lot of people feel very forsaken during those complications. And so I try to talk a little bit about that in disease because I think it's important, if you know anybody that has an illness or disease, to check in on them aftercare. And so I do have a lot of complications. And so the journey started in 2012. I had breast implant illness in 2020. I was doing mastectomies up until 2016, and my surgeries completed after my excavation of my chest again in 2020 was like 2021. So really about 9 years.
9 years of your life.
9 years of my life. And interestingly enough, I'm finding now, I feel like I'm in a season of joy. One, because I'm serving. There's a difference between happiness and joy, and the difference is serving. Mm-hmm. Happiness is self-serving, like buying a bag and, oh, this is so cute, and putting on makeup and feeling really adorable one day. Joy comes from serving others, giving people hope, and like your husband says, doing good. Mm-hmm. And so I seek those joyful moments, and I feel like the season of my life is a joyful season, and I'm watching, speaking of my faith, God give things back. Mm-hmm. So I feel like a lot of my relationship with my children was stolen, right? Because I couldn't take care of them. My friends were able to, thankfully, but I'm getting those relationships back. I'm getting, time with people that I didn't have time with, and certain things now that I'm getting back, I feel like are kind of gifts. So it's a joyful season.
Yes, for sure. How do you serve?
How do I serve?
Yes.
Well, I serve by, I feel like my book is meant to serve. Mm-hmm. My book is to show how I did it wrong for so long, because so many of us, I think, can learn from that. Mm-hmm. I speak, I'm a public speaker, really all over the world. I do a lot of interviews to share my story of post-traumatic wisdom. Mm-hmm. My book is made into a film, which is coming out in theaters this spring.
Oh, amazing.
So that's going to be a whole different level of hope that we give to the world. I'm also a social media influencer in a vulnerable but honest and not perfect way. Yeah. I'm showing it in a way that is relatable. Yeah. And I also am modeling still. I'm modeling in Miami Swim Week.
That's
I'm
amazing.
modeling with major brands. I have a modeling agent in New York. So I do a lot of different things, and they all stem from me trying to give women hope.
Spread that awareness.
Spread it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I can't. The modeling thing is just.
The modeling is
amazing.
so fun. Yeah.
And I thank you and all the other people on the internet and on social media. I know I will always say, oh, they only talk about great things, but there's a lot of people who talk about their vulnerable moments, and it's very courageous to do, and I thank all of those people, because it does help
Yeah.
other people who maybe don't have that community at the time around them, don't have real people helping them out. It does help a lot reading those or looking at those things, and you feel like, oh, if that person can do it, I can do it too.
That's called borrowing courage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going back to the sense of community, 2 questions. One is having that is one just a boon in itself, right? It's
Yes.
a great thing to have. What would you advise? This is just off topic a little bit, because I know there's a lot of immigrants in this country who live by themselves. Like, I came here legally, of course, but it can be very isolating because your entire family's in a different country. And I know COVID was very isolating for me
Yes.
for that reason. And and for a lot of other people too who live in different states and their families are not around. And I think that's where social media helped a little bit, looking at what other people are going through. What advice would you give those people who are by themselves, don't have that community around, don't have those friends and family members?
I think this world can feel very lonely, whether it's because you're an immigrant or whether you have an illness or whether you're pushing people away because you're in a season of your life where you feel fear and you feel abandoned. You know, we can have these intentions of wanting to be with a community but actually shun ourselves from that, which I've done in my life as well. I think that community is critical to longevity and to a healthy life. And so there are times, I moved to Miami by myself in 2015. I joined a club, actually joined 2 different clubs. I sought out a church, whatever church you're looking for, there's probably one within the vicinity of where you are. I found, again, a lot of this takes courage, right? To join a church, to go out by yourself, and it's not easy, but if you know how critical community is, you will take those steps to go out into the world and to say, I need help. Here's the other thing. So many of us have pride and ego. I had a lot of pride and ego, and not in a good way. I had a lot of pride and ego that caused a lot of shame in my life. And when the illnesses hit me one after the other, my pride and ego was gone. I was like, okay, Lord, I am down to nothing. Like, just fill up my cup. What's next? You take over. And I think that a lot of us feel this fear to go say, I want to join this church, but I don't really want to put myself out there. I want to join this club, but I don't want to put myself out there. That's pride and that's fear.
Yep.
But if you can get rid of that and just humble yourself and say, you know what? If they reject me, it's not my community. I'm going to try again. I'm going to look for a different group and keep going out there. Those people that find you and that want to be a part of your team, those people you'll carry and have with you for the rest of your life. That's important.
It's funny you said that because I completely relate to it. I have moved around so much since I've been in the US for my training and my studying and residency fellowship, all of that, that by the time I moved to Florida, and I moved to Florida for a job, every time I moved I had to create a new community, new group of friends, and I did. And I'm outgoing and social too, so I'm an extrovert, so it wasn't really that hard for me to do. By the time I moved here, I was just over it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to do it all over again. So right now, I hardly do any of that, right? Because I'm like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. Who knows when I'm going to move next? What's the point?
Well,
maybe that's the lack of community that I feel like I don't have right now, is because I'm not making an effort to do that.
2 comments. 1, you're nesting right now, so give yourself a little grace. That's 1. 2, we go through different seasons of our life where we can't emotionally put ourselves out there, and that's okay. But we shouldn't lose ourselves. If you don't feel that there's something coming up where you feel joy, where you feel an opportunity, you feel happiness, find somebody to talk to about that, because that's despair and that's dangerous. So if you're alone and you feel that type of despair for long periods of time, you need some help. I'm not a therapist, but
No, there's no despair. It's just that not wanting to really go out and create that. Just being too lazy to go out and socialize or do anything.
But the last thing I'll say is I think so much of our culture says, we'll do it for you. That's not true. Mm-hmm. It's my job to protect myself. It's your job to protect yourself. We don't need a man to do it. We don't need a parent to do it. We can do it. Right. So if you feel alone and you feel abandoned and you feel orphaned, go out there and find people, because there are people that will want to be on your team, and that's your job. Yeah. We can't wait for people to do it for us.
Of course. No one's going to come home and knock on your door and be like, hey, I'm here to, you have to.
Yeah, so many of my friends who are single, they're like, well, I don't really want to go out and I don't really want to do this. And I'm like, okay, well, they're not going to come knocking at your door.
Let's talk about the post-traumatic stress a little bit. And I've read a lot of breast cancer patients. It's actually 1 in 3, and some studies said even more than that, suffer from post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic stress disorder. Did you have that too?
I did, and I think that I've spent a lot of time working through it. Mm-hmm. I refer to it now as post-traumatic wisdom, because I'm using my post-traumatic stress in an outlet to serve others, but that doesn't negate the triggers that sometimes I feel. Like, I have a doctor's appointment this afternoon. I'm walking into a hospital. I mean, I've been thousands of times in a hospital. I've been thousands of times where I wasn't sure that I was going to survive. Maybe not thousands of times where I wasn't sure I was going to survive, but a lot of days. And so those can be triggers. And if we don't have tools to help ourselves during those triggers, then it expands on that, expounds that difficulty, and it doesn't ever go away. So when I have those triggers, I sit in the moment. I don't try to distract myself from it. I sit in that moment. Okay, what are you feeling? Why does this scare you? Your God is bigger than this anxiety. And your feet are on the ground, you're grounded, you're whole. And I start it's self-talk. Doesn't always get rid of it, but it helps. Be in that moment and work and be in that space where a lot of times people get distracted and then they, look at their phone and go through social media. Well, that makes it worse because now you're like, nobody else is in the hospital. I'm here, and now look at all these people. They're on the beach. They're on traveling, and so that made me feel worse. That's comparison. So if you just sit in that moment and actually digest it and ask yourself questions, it can be helpful, especially for long term.
Yeah. There's something called scanxiety too, like scan anxiety.
Oh, I'm well aware.
Yeah. I remember last time I think we communicated, you said you had a doctor's appointment, and even today. So I'm sure it brings up everything, and I'm sure it's not, you go through it, but it's not stress-free. I'm sure driving there or before getting your results, you must be like, oh, what's it going to show this time?
It's not benign, let's put it that way. It's not a benign moment.
Yes.
Today I have a heart doctor, and I had no heart issues before chemo, but there's a specific type of chemo that I went through called Herceptin that can attack the heart. And I don't have major heart problems, but I do have some heart problems from it. And so it's more of a maintenance thing that I go through. But, doctors are busy and they're not on time. And so you end up spending hours in a place that you don't want to be at. And that can invoke a lot of scanxiety.
Right.
So, I don't want to negate how difficult that is for people, especially for people who maybe got a lumpectomy and didn't get a mastectomy and they have to get mammograms.
Right.
I can't imagine how scary that is. And how sad, it's such a beautiful, intimate part of our body that we're afraid of. When I was first diagnosed, I was afraid of my breasts. That's sad.
I think you also have something called PTG, and there's some research about this. It's post-traumatic growth, which is people become more resilient and they find themselves after going through that traumatic event or any oncological disease. So this has actually been studied.
I love it.
PTG exists and people become better versions of themselves.
Yes.
After going through all of that.
Well, that should be talked about more too, because that gives people hope.
Yes. And the other thing I was thinking was that now you see a lot of people on social media, a lot of therapists talking about trauma, about PTSD, about healing, about a lot of that, right? When you went through it, I don't think there was any of that resource or information available that easily.
Not only was there not, there weren't self-help groups. There weren't groups like in hospitals. Now, if you're diagnosed with breast cancer, most of these hospitals have groups you can go talk to, and it becomes a community. Well, I didn't have that, and so I was young. I didn't have any contemporaries going through the disease, and there was no group that I could go talk to. And now on social media, I've been on social media for probably 10 years. There's breast cancer groups on social media. So you can certainly find people that have gone through what you've been through on social media as well. So in that regard, it can be very helpful.
And I thank them too to be talking about these things online, because trauma can be in so many different ways, and them talking about it and spreading awareness also helps other people. Yeah. And coming back to the scan anxiety part and spending hours at a doctor's clinic, I don't think I have PTSD, I can't call it that, but I have stressful experiences at the doctor's office every time.
Give an example.
Okay, this is bad, I don't know if I should say this. I hate going to the doctors.
I don't think anybody likes to
I know,
go.
but I get anxious before it. So I'd be waiting for the doctor in the room, and now I have had to go more than ever, because before I hardly ever did. If I had something, I would just self-treat, self-diagnose, whatever, and it's fine, right? Now I have to go, and sitting there makes my heart rate go up. Waiting for the doctor makes my heart rate go up. Thinking about not the results as much, just being there in that space makes me anxious, uncomfortable, and tachycardic. It just is not a good feeling. And even before going there, I'm always like on the edge. Oh my God, I have to go there today. And getting blood work done, getting any test done, I hate it. I remember texting, I think 3 or 4 of my girlfriends, because I was freaking out before a pap smear. And I was sitting in the office. I was waiting for the person to come in, and I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I have to do it. I don't think I can get away. I've delayed it for too long. Now I have to do it. They're like, chill out. It's okay. It's going to be 2 minutes. It doesn't take any time, blah, blah, blah. But I have this problem.
Okay, a couple comments to that. Worry never added a second to your life.
Yes.
1, right? Remember that when you're going through that anxiety. Okay, a worry has never, ever added a second to my life. That's 1. 2, when I was going through chemo, there was a point where I said to myself, I have no control over the outcome. I don't know if I'm going to live or die. But what I can control is every single day I wake up, I'm going to show courage for myself, build my self-esteem. I'm going to show courage for my family and my friends. That was my choice. I could have woken up every day and said, I'm so anxious, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And again, it existed in my life. I felt anxious. But it was, I taught myself, this is a choice.
Right.
You have to let go of the pap smear outcome. You can't control it. You have no control over that.
For sure, yeah.
So sometimes we have to remind ourselves of things we cannot control over.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
It's not that simple.
Yeah.
But if you practice that, if you keep practicing that, eventually you'll be like, okay, this PET scan today, this is terrible, and I feel awful, and I'm afraid, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Yes.
And I'm going to inspire somebody. Maybe I'll inspire the nurse. Maybe I'll share my story with other people that are sitting next to me, and maybe that helps them with their appointment. There's always opportunities everywhere you go to help other people that are in the same spot you're in.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do.
That's nice. Well, this is just that, I think they always say doctors make the worst patients. I think it's that multiplied by 2, because nothing else in life really scares me as much except for losing people I love. There's literally nothing else that stresses me out than going to a doctor's office. And I don't know why that is. Maybe because I work there every day and I see
illness.
I see bad things happen, people sick, people dying. So that being there myself as a patient just stresses me out.
Oh, sure. Grace.
And again, lack of control.
Give yourself grace.
I'll try. Anything you would want to say to people who, let's say, are going through a traumatic event right now? Any piece of advice?
You know, it's funny because when I was going through the most trauma in my life, I totally wanted to quit. So it's hard for me to get up here and say, oh, you should do this or that. Sometimes you have to just be in that moment and those few days where you're just stuck and you can't give anybody anything. You can't do anything for yourself. Some days I had to stay in bed, and I look back and I felt guilty doing that. But I look back and say to myself, you just needed to do that.
Yeah.
Just give yourself the time to crawl through the day. You don't have to sprint, just crawl through the day. And sometimes I would tell myself, moment to moment. That exists, and it's a thing because it's necessary for so much trauma. People, think about these hostages that are just coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I try to think about them a lot. I try to pray for them. We have no idea, right, what they've gone through. We have no idea the trauma that they'll have. But what we can, if we ever had an opportunity to say something to them, we could just say second by second, moment by moment. Because the PTSD they have, I can't even imagine.
Oh, I remember when all that was happening and it was all over the news. I was getting stressed out looking at it, and I used to tell my husband I can't watch it anymore. I just cannot.
Yeah.
There was so much graphic content out there, and it's just terrible, because I'm the kind of person who, whenever something like that happens in the world, I try to associate with myself or my family.
Mm.
Right? And that's a bad thing to do, but when I do that, it really emotionally affects me, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible.
Well, because you're empathetic.
Yes.
Which is actually a gift. It's a very good quality, but you almost have to detach sometimes from that empathy.
Because and this is real. This is not even a movie.
It's so
This is
sad.
real things happening, and it's just, yeah, I was very affected by that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad they're back, but again, we cannot imagine or even fathom what they've been through.
Well, so another thing about that is be careful what you ingest in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm sensitive to shows that are about cancer. I know I'm sensitive to violent shows. I just won't watch them.
Right.
It's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put yourself in a position where something that you see on TV, if you can't handle those images, don't turn on the news.
Especially because you're powerless in that situation.
Of course.
You can't do
There's
anything
nothing,
about it. Let's talk about resilience and social media's role in resilience. So there's so much that our self-perception, how we look at the world, and how we cope, a lot of those things, especially for the younger generation, maybe not me, but a lot of, that is shaped by social media. How do you think that's going to impact resilience and overall our next generation? Because sometimes I think it can be good and bad. Good in when they think about other people sharing their vulnerabilities or their experiences or their trauma, and also the information and resources available around that area. Bad in the sense of losing face-to-face community, losing the, being able to go out that much, and then that comparison with the perfection and, people who are only posting the good side. To me, it can be both ways, but I think social media, the one thing that it has done is make everybody more superficial.
Okay, so in regards to resilience, I think it's going to hurt the world.
Okay.
That's one thing. I think social media is good, both polarities. I think it is good, and I think it is bad. Mm-hmm. I think on one hand, you have people out there, like yourself and myself, who are trying to give hope in a vulnerable, honest way, perception. But then you have people making millions of dollars on OnlyFans.
I was just going to bring that up. You stole my mind.
And it's and for young people, that's really confusing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, do I really want to put out there that I have all these pimples today, that I have, I got an F on a grade when here are my sorority sisters on OnlyFans making millions of dollars because they're filtering their pictures.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
So for them, and I didn't grow up, I'm 54 years old, I didn't grow up in a time where we had social media as a young adult. I'm sure it would have affected me.
Yeah.
And I have sons. So I can't speak to those girls that feel insecure, although I can understand it.
Yeah.
But I think, and I tell people, because I speak in young schools, I speak to high school students, I always tell them, be careful who you follow. Follow people that are giving you hope, not taking something from you, not making you feel bad about yourself. And that they have control over. That we all have control over.
Right. I never thought we would come to a point like this. For example, so when I was growing up, I did everything I could. So I knew like I was above average to above average looking, right? Just by the attention you get around from the opposite sex. I tried everything, I did everything I could to not just be a pretty face. And I'm not saying I'm like amazing, I'm average, above average, whatever, presentable. But I tried so hard to not just be a pretty face. I actually, maybe I went overboard a little bit.
Using your brain, you mean?
Yes. I always was, I need to do this, and then I need to do that, and I need to write this, and I need to do that research, and I need to do more and more and more and more and more and more, and never stopped. Just because I could not, I think I was trying to prove something to myself, or maybe the world, that I am not
just a pretty face.
Yes, I'm not.
You didn't want them to put you in that box.
Never. And I just worked so hard to do that. And today, when I've spent 15 years studying and making my career and, getting where I am, and I'm very thankful, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm glad I did everything I did, and I'm grateful that I had the courage and the strength and the brains to do that. But when I see 22, 25-year-olds make millions of dollars on OnlyFans, I'm like, did I do something wrong? Like, I'm old now, and I'm still doing this, and I still have to work. And I have to work all my life until I retire. And look at these people, what are they doing? And I could never do that, but it's just like, it gives you, you have some moments where you're like, what is happening in the world? What is going on? How is this possible?
I'll give you a couple statements about that.
Are kids gonna go to med school?
Yes, they
anymore?
are. Yes,
I
they
hope
are.
so.
Yes, they are. OnlyFans and things like that they're temporary. They may exist for long periods of time, but though the people that are on that are temporary, right?
Yeah.
People age, people have illnesses. That's universal, right? If you have a pretty face, it doesn't mean you're not going to get breast cancer. That period.
Yeah.
And if money gave people happiness,
yes.
wouldn't that be easier?
It would be,
but it doesn't. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I was like, oh my gosh, all these pretty bags that I carried, they can't keep me warm at night. All these beautiful clothes, all this pretty house that I live in, this car that I drive. I wasn't driving my car. I was too sick to get out of my house. Those things don't matter. Those are the materialism doesn't matter. You can't take it with you. There is no U-Haul behind the hearse. I'm not suggesting that the money they're making doesn't fill up something inside of them. Of course, we all need money to survive, but it's not sustainable. And so what you're doing, what I'm doing, is sustainable because it brings us joy. We're contributing to society. And again, I'm not saying all OnlyFans are not contributing.
Come on.
I don't.
Come on.
I've actually never.
Say it. You
I've
have
actually
to say
never.
It. I'll say it.
I've never been on the site. I've never been on the site. I don't need it. I don't look at stuff. When you fill yourself up with things that are meaningful, it's like, I don't have time for that.
Exactly.
I'm trying to change people's lives.
Yes.
I love the spirited of conversations.
I know.
It's good. It's good stuff.
All right, I think this is it. This is all I have here.
That's it?
Yes.
Just kidding.
No, but I can go on and on.
No, I know. I can too. I can too. I did an hour speech on Saturday, and I feel like I only touched just a sliver, you know?
So what's next? What's
my movie?
You said there's a movie coming?
My movie. Yeah,
When
my
is
movie.
it?
So Hello Beautiful is what the movie's called. Obviously
Okay.
the book is Walk Beside Me. But the movie is based on my life and the book. The reason for the movie, and you'll appreciate this, when people are diagnosed with an illness, they seek out, they're so inundated with medical information. It's overwhelming.
Yes.
Which is why a lot of people need patient advocates, because they can't take it all in. Well, what patients also seek out is media about what they're about to go through. They want to see other patients. They want to see other stories, right? Whether it's in a book or a movie or a TV show. Same with me. So when I was going through breast cancer, I sought out, well, what movies about cancer are there out there? So I watched Terms of Endearment. She died. I watched Steel Magnolias because it's about illness. She died. I watched Philadelphia. He died. And it was like one after the other. Stepmother. She died. It was one after the other of patients dying. And I thought, I'm going to die. Because that's what Hollywood is portraying. And by the way, that does exist, right? People do die. But there are so many people that survive. Why aren't we showing the survival stories? And so I thought to myself, if I can write the book, if I can get over the chemo brain and actually write the book, if I can get the book made into a film, wouldn't that make a splash in the world? Where it's somebody walking off the set at the end of a movie, living, thriving, surviving. And that's what I wanted to put into the world. That's my legacy.
Well, that's amazing. And I can't wait to watch it. And you have to sign that book for me, by the way.
Oh, well, yeah.
All right.
So the movie's Hello Beautiful, very fitting for
Yes.
the world we live in.
The title, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Christine, thank you so much for being here. This was an amazing discussion. I just loved it.
Well, I hope it inspires many people.
I hope so too.
Thank you.
For all you guys out there, thank you for tuning into the Sharma Show. For everyone who's going through any traumatic event right now or going through a tough time, remember you are not alone. Please go seek out your friends, family, community, or if you don't have that, people on social media like Christine who talk about things like resilience. Thank you, and until next time, take care of yourself.